Okay, we finished topic 1. We're going to move on now to manage your money and cover topic 2. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk about spend plans. We're going to talk about credit unions and banks. And we're going to talk about saving and investing goals. Okay, here's an example of a spend plan worksheet. This is part of one of the handouts that I'm going to be sending you. And there'll be a lot more details with it, so you'll understand it once you get the email from me. This is kind of the second page. Talks about, income reductions. It's pretty self-explanatory and it's a pretty good worksheet, okay? In anybody's spend plan, there's always going to be what they call living expenses. Now, some of these, one in particular, like your health, okay? If you're in the military, hey, they're going to take care of you and your family. Your health care needs are going to be taken care of, okay? But most of us are going to have some sort of housing or food or transportation. Okay, some people personal and family funds that they want to do, and some things like other categories like gift giving, okay, or Christmas or things like that. And then, most of us are going to have something that's uncategorized. Okay, so there's a lot of different types of living expenses. But how do we know how much, if we've got some expenses out there, how does that set to what they call our debt to income ratio? Okay, how much is too much? Okay, so according to this table, most of you are probably going to be without a mortgage at this time. Okay, so you want to shoot for less than 15%. It'll say that you're well positioned. So the example at the bottom I gave is, here's your formula. Let's say you take all your debt payments, and the example on the screen is $619.74. And we're going to divide that number by your gross pay, and then we're going to multiply that number by 100, and it's going to give us a percentage. So this 14.66%, is that a good number for somebody who is without a mortgage? You bet it is, okay? Now, I'm not condoning debt. I don't like debt at all, okay? Because I know if you're in debt, then you're probably paying somebody a pretty good amount on interest, okay? And so try to live your life without debt, but initially starting off, it may be hard to do, okay? Let's move on. Now, what is net worth? Okay, net worth is basically what you own minus what you owe. Okay, and they give an example here, and there's a lot of numbers, a lot of things there. And then but this person here has a positive net worth of over $13,000. So this is something that I started tracking for my own personal stuff on a spreadsheet. And I update this spreadsheet every month. And I want to see that my assets are growing, because I don't know if you remember this, maybe years ago they had a commercial out, and they wanted everybody to try to figure out what is their number. Everybody's looking for that number that they have enough money, now they can actually quit work or retire or live the way that they want to live, okay? So what is that number? To all of us, that number is going to be a different number. Okay, but the significant cost changes for military retirees as opposed to people that just serve in the military and they separate with less than 20 years, the biggest cost there is going to be health care. I'm thankful for me doing 24 years that I did, because, man, my health care cost, it's $50 a month. For my whole family, it's just unbelievable. And most of you are going to know and shake your head and go, golly, that's really cheap compared to what a lot of people do on the outside, because I know people paying $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 a month for their health care costs. So just something to think about. Where is my money going? Well, that's the problem with most people, because statistics say that 70% of people do not have a plan. They do not have a tracking method to how they keep up with their money, okay? So we've mentioned the spend plan worksheet. We know there's elements in the spend plan, a lot of different expenses that go with that, okay? But how do you assess your indebtedness, okay? Maybe right now you only have a car payment. That's awesome. Maybe you have some student loan debt, okay? Great. Let's have a plan, put it in place, and then I like to tell people, hey, don't let your money control you. You control your money. How you do that is you got to have a plan, okay? The fourth bullet down there, expense tracking strategies. A lot of people use spreadsheets, But I'll say this all the time. Spreadsheets, the only problem with spreadsheets is spreadsheets don't spend your money. You do. Okay? When I first started doing budgeting and spreadsheets and things like that, back in the day, I started with transition logs. Okay? Like I would have an individual sheet in a little notebook. And like if my category was Christmas, then I would add so much money to that Christmas sheet every month. And that's how I kept up with it. Some people nowadays, they like to use cash envelopes. And then with technology, how that's come around, cell phone apps are getting more and more popular. There's two that I've mentioned there. A lot of military folks like to use Mint. Okay, Mint is it's a great cell phone app, but they do require you to connect your banking account information with that app. Now, the other one that I use is called EveryDollar. Some of you may have heard of a guy named Dave Ramsey. Okay, his crew kind of set this one up. And actually, I got this idea from a second lieutenant that used to work in our office at the Readiness Center waiting on pilot training to start about 4 or 5 years ago. And once he showed it to me, hey, I was hooked. So like I said before, you know, I said, hey, it's great to have good mentors or good people that you know are good with money and be like a sponge. Take that information in and hey, you may have to discard some of it, but man, we can always learn something from everyone, okay? Make it, the thing about this, you want to make it easy enough to where you'll want to keep up with it, okay? All right, so I give you an example here of like the cash envelope method, okay? Because probably one of the key things in doing budgeting or spend plans or things like that is you got to get your money out of the account, okay? It's kind of like you starting your TSP. Once you set it up, it comes out automatically. You really don't even see it, okay? Well, this is a method that some people use, and they'll use cash because, you know, each of you, you may have all of these categories. Maybe you want to go on vacation at some point, right? Most people have a Christmas fund or a gift fund. You know, if you're driving a vehicle or a truck or whatever, you need an auto repair fund, okay? And most people are going to spend money on clothing at some time during the year. And then the big category at the bottom is your food and entertainment fund. So this is just an example. So this person would take out $700 a month and then put that cash in these envelopes. Now keep in mind, you don't, just because the money's in the envelope, you don't have to spend it. Okay, like your vacation fund or your Christmas fund, you're going to be putting money in that envelope. If you did $25 a month, you would have $300 that you could spend for Christmas. Okay, so it's all about getting money out of the account because typically, how do people deal with their money? They will log into their account sometimes every day, sometimes multiple times a day, but at least weekly, they're logging in and looking to see how much money's left over. And that's what they're dealing with. So if you already go ahead and remove some of this money out of there, put it, not that you've spent it yet, but you've set it aside because you know at some point in the year that you're going to actually have to spend this money. So this is just one example of possibly, you know, helping you with your spend plan, okay? Personal banking, okay, it's all a decision. Most of you, if you're military or you're a military brat, so to speak, then maybe you're already hooked up with USAA. A lot of people like to use USAA. The benefit, probably the biggest benefit about USAA is, man, they treat you like a king, okay? You're their bread and butter, okay? But they also have what they call brokerage account capability. So if you want to set up an IRA, you can do that. They'll help you set that up for you, okay? So it just, there's some other things that they can do, but is the bank that you're associated with, is it meeting all of your needs? That's what you want to find out. And there's a handout on that, so you'll see some more information on this later. Okay, let's talk about saving and investing, okay? I like this quote here, the best way to achieve long-term financial plan is to invest as well as save, okay? And start investing contributions as soon as possible. Now, there is a quote at the bottom, and I'll tell you who said it, but check it out. Pretty awesome. The problem with most people is that they save what's left over after spending instead of spend what's left over after saving. The person that said that is Warren Buffett. Most of you, if you know anything about finances or investments or things like that, you're going to know that Warren Buffett is a pretty wealthy guy. About 8 weeks ago, he was worth about $90 billion. Okay, I checked the other day, his account asset information has gone down to like 74 billion, right? So he's took a chunk loss because of what's going on in our economy right now. But things have already turned around and it's already coming back. So, but just a good quote, you know, because for him, the emphasis is always on saving. And then here's a pyramid where, you know, just kind of getting your basic things out of the way. Maybe you're at the management level, then the savings level, and then maybe you want to start investing. Okay, some people like to invest in real estate or stocks or bonds, mutual funds. There's a lot of things out there for people that they can get involved in when it comes to saving. Okay, some saving strategies. Okay, some people, like I mentioned it before, but some people have an emergency fund or a reserve fund, okay? Now, that's another big benefit about being in the military. Folks, our pay has not stopped because of this coronavirus. It's just not. I mean, we are so fortunate to have that. Now, there are a lot of people out there that they've had to quit work for whatever reason. Or there could be spouses on this base that had a job that now they don't have a job. So this is why we always stress the importance. Hey, have an emergency fund. Most financial experts will say 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses is a good emergency fund number, okay? Some people have goal-getter funds. Okay, maybe you decide you want to buy something and maybe that item is $1,000, okay? Great, we'll say if you can set it aside and save $100 a month for that, then make it happen, okay? That's considered like a goal-getter fund. And then there's investments, and we'll talk more about investments, how you can get more involved in that, even outside of your TSP. Okay, time and compounding, okay? The magic about investing is compound interest. Okay, why should we start early? Look at this slide, okay? There'll be a lot of you that you're going to see this video that you're not even going to be 25 years old. So look at that number. The goal here is to get to $500,000 by your age of 67. So if you're 25 years old, it only costs you $153 a month. And now you're thinking, well, that doesn't sound like too much money. I know, but it's about time, okay? Because if you start at 25 and the person next to you starts at 35, and then the next person starts at 45, you're already 20 years ahead of those guys, okay? Now look what they have to give to get to the same number of around $500,000 at age 67. The 35-year-old, $324 a month. The 45-year-old, $735 a month. Now some people, hey, if they want to do that, that's, you know, and that's the only way that they can do it because they didn't understand this information. I get it. You know, it's harder to start, but you guys just starting your career in the military, and most of you guys are going to be in your early 20s. Hey, get started now. And look at that number. Your 5% to TSP ends up being a little more than $164 a month. And if you're getting matching from the government, that's exactly what they're giving you. So it's like doubling that money. And then they will do that all the way up to your 26th year in the military if you stayed that long. But some of you may not. Some of you may just do 10 years to fulfill your pilot training commitment and then you leave the military. And that's okay. We'll shake your hand and thank you for your service and do all of those things, okay? But some of you may decide to have a full career with the military. Okay, there is a percentage of people that actually stayed long enough to have that type of career, okay? The percentage, it does fluctuate, but it's usually around 18 to 19% of people that join the military actually stay long enough to retire. So something to think about, okay? Power of compound interest, okay? So while we're on this, one-time investment, $19,500. There's a reason why I put that number, and I'll mention that here in a minute. But look at that, 40 years at 7%. Can you get 7% as an average? You can get 7% like standing on your head. So, I mean, look at that. Look at that return of investment, but it's all about time. You've got 40 years, okay, if you're starting early, right? But here's a person, he or she, going to put 19.5 and never put another dime in there. So if I could tell you, hey, give me about $20,000 and I'm going to give you close to $300,000 in 40 years, would that be a good investment? You bet it would. But look at these other numbers. Look at the 10% line. Look at the 20% line. Now, if I could tell you, folks, hey, you're going to earn 20% the next 40 years, do you think I'd be doing this video presentation? Probably not. Okay, there'd be somebody wanting to pay me a whole lot of money to try to predict that kind of numbers. But folks, the thing is, you got to get started. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is risk tolerance. Okay, now each of you are somewhere on this scale. Now, if you're in your early 20s, I would say you are going to lean towards more the very aggressive to the high risk side. Okay, now why? Because you have time for your investments to recover. Like I said, most of you, you're going to have 30 to 35, 38 years before you're going to want to start using your retirement funds. Now, but there are some of you out there that may be just worried about your money. And if you can't sleep at night, then maybe you need to scroll back and maybe be on the more of the moderately aggressive line, okay? But for the sake of time, okay, you have time to allow yourself to be more aggressive. So that'd be something to think about. Investment accounts, okay? There's different types. So personal investment accounts. You have your 401k. They like to call it that because that's what most companies have is a 401k. In the military, they call it the TSP. So is there a limit of the amount of money you can put in your TSP? Well, yeah, there is. And so when I put it on that previous slide, for TSP, it's $19,500. Okay? Now, there's a few people on the base that are doing that. A few lieutenants, because they've got no student loan debt, they've got no car payments, maybe they're not married, and they can do that. And I know some folks, because they've told me they're going to do it for a couple of years. Pretty awesome, okay? Now there's other types of accounts, like what they call an IRA. Most of you know what that is. It's an individual retirement account or retirement assessment, okay? How much money can you put in your IRA? Well, if you're under 50 years old, then you can put $6,000 a year in it, okay? What is that? That's $500 a month. There's your contribution limit, okay? Some other people have other investment accounts, like maybe they start having children and they want to start a 529 college savings plans. A lot of people do that. And then some folks will have what they call, they'll have a separate brokerage account that doesn't fall under retirements. So it's not a 401k and it's not an IRA, but they would rather have an investment account with maybe like Fidelity or T. Rowe Price or, you know, some company, or Vanguard, some company like that, to where they can actually invest money in the market on the short term. So maybe they want to do that to take advantage of what they can earn in the market, as opposed to sitting money in your savings account earning very little interest. Okay, so that'd be something that you may want to think about. There's different things you can get involved in. There's stocks, there's bonds, there's mutual funds, ETFs, there's all kind of things that you can get involved in. So once you start learning more about the investments, okay? But let's mainly talk about TSP today. It is basically your military retirement savings and investment plan. Okay, contributions are invested in mutual funds and they kind of coincide with index funds. Your goal, the goal would be, I want to at least do 5%. Okay, and like I mentioned before, your 5% as a second lieutenant is probably going to be about $164 and change. And most people, they don't even blink at that. They can do that, okay? But try to do at least what the government's going to match, okay? So TSP, there's 6 different investment funds in TSP. Okay, your first one is what they call the G Fund. That falls under government securities. You're never going to lose money in the G Fund, okay? There'll never be a negative number. That's tied directly to the federal government. The first one outside of that is a fixed income index, and that's your F Fund, and that is tracking the Lehman Brothers bond market. That's what the F Fund does. The next one, your common stock index investment fund, that is your C Fund. What do we mean by that? That is your S&P 500. So if you're watching the news or you're on Yahoo Finance and you see the hey, the S&P 500 is up 50 points today or whatever. That's what they're talking about. Your C fund, and that's what index funds do. They're actually tracking something that's already been established. So you can't buy the S&P 500, but you can buy a fund that mimics that, okay? And your C fund does that in TSP. The next fund is your S fund. This is your small cap stock index investment, okay? These are small to medium style index funds, and there's actually about there's over 3,400 companies that are involved in the S fund. Okay, so let me just jump back real quick to the S&P 500, kind of a trick question. So how many companies are involved in the S&P 500? No, it's not 500. It's actually 505. Okay, so it does fluctuate periodically as time goes on. But the small cap, yeah, there's over 3,400 companies. So is that diversified? Is your C fund diversified? You bet it is, because it's in a lot of different sectors and entities in the investment world. Okay, then your last one is your international stock. If you think of think international, that is your overseas fund. Okay, so these are going to be invested in companies that are overseas or somehow associated with the overseas market. And then your last category is what they call the life cycle fund. Your life cycle fund is basically, it's a combination of all of these funds that are listed above there, your GF, CS, and I. But it's all based on a target retirement timeline, and it's based on your age. So let's look at it. So this slide right here, it shows us, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the L2050 fund. Now, when people start there these days, when you start your TSP account, the default, all of your money is going to go into this fund. Now, what that is, you're looking at a screen and it says April 2020, and it'll show you the percentages of how much of your money is going to each of these funds. Now, there is a change that they're going to make this year with TSP. If you're looking at the screen, you would think, well, God, they're 10-year increments. Well, they're actually going to transition to 5-year increments at some point this year. So, but as we're looking at this, as time goes on, your life cycle funds, they adjust for you automatically. You don't have to mess with it. So once a quarter, these funds, they will adjust. And then you get 10 years down the road, then your funds may look like what is the 2040 fund right there. And notice how the percentages have changed. So look at your G fund, okay? Right in the 2050 fund, it's like 10 point something. But as you transition to 2040, 2030, 2020, and then you get all the way to L income. Now, who are these folks? These folks, they're already retired, or they're already drawing their TSP money. But look at the G fund and what the percentage is on the L income. You're right, it's 72%. Why? Because I told you in the beginning, the G fund is the only fund that doesn't lose money. So they want to try to protect the bulk of their money, and that's how they do it in a life cycle fund. Some people also know these funds are called a target retirement fund, but this is how TSP does theirs. Next slide, here we go. We'll talk about tsptalk.com. You can go out there, and what they've showed us is, okay, let's look at the overall returns of the last 3 years. So 2019, look at that, was a great year. Look at your C fund on last year. It made 31.45%. Pretty awesome. Now look at 2018. Look at the C fund. It was -4. Look at the F fund. It actually made a small percentage of money. Look at the G fund. It made a little bit more. Because for the most part, 2018 was a negative or a down year in the market. Now look at 2017. Look at the I fund on 2017. 25.42. And remember, the I fund is your overseas market. So things change, things fluctuate all the time. So this is just one area you can go and look up that information. Another website would be this one here. Under fedsmith.com, what I did, I took a snapshot of close of business April 28th, 2020. So a couple days ago, look at where we are. Okay, so if you look at this chart, on the right-hand side, the YTD stands for year to date. The next column to the left shows a percentage. And then the next column to the left of that shows the change. Well, that's the change. If it's green, what happened? It actually went up for that day. If it's red, it went down that day. So if you're looking at the C fund line, the C fund is the only fund, which is your S&P 500, it actually went down 0.52% on that day. Okay, now if you look at the YTD, the year-to-date column, you see that negative 11.63, I believe is what it says. Look at that percentage. Well, just a few weeks ago, that number was like negative 27%. So look how much it's already gained back. Okay, and then look at the S&I funds. So this is just another website. I kind of look at it just to glance and see what happened in yesterday's world. Okay, so for that section, that kind of covers manage your money. And what we talked about was how to track your spending, which is really important. Choosing the financial services that you need with your credit union or your bank. Start saving and investing early, right? It always benefits you the earliest you can start, okay? And get the best interest rate you can on savings. There's some savings accounts out there that I believe some things are offering over 2%. So that's not bad for a regular savings account. And let compound of interest and earnings work for you, okay? I didn't mention this earlier, but there's one guy who actually said that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. Okay, who said that? That was Albert Einstein, pretty smart guy. Okay, so that may be one of your questions. And so contribute at least as much as to your base pay as the DoD is going to match for your TSP account. Now what some folks do, let me mention that, because your TSP, if you're under the BRS, and you've opted into the program, then you should get matching started immediately. But if you didn't sign a contract prior to that 1 January 2018, and now you've come in the service without doing that, then your matching doesn't start until your 25th month in the service. So some folks, what they're doing, they're just doing the 10%. And they just start off with the 10%. So they know that at least the money is going in there. It is all of their money that they're investing, but it's going into their retirement account. And then after 2 years, then maybe they scroll back to the 5% level because now they're going to start getting that match from the government. Just something to think about. How do I sign up for TSP? Okay, I'm going to log in to the Air Force portal. And on the top, there's a menu bar. And if you click on Life Fitness, it's going to open up another couple of windows, and then over there to the left-hand side, you're going to see MyPay. To me, that's the quickest way to get there. Once you click on MyPay, it's going to pull up that bottom, what you see on the bottom screen, and you'll want to click on your CAT card. Okay, once you click on your CAT card, you'll have to do one of these acknowledgement things. Once you click on that, it's going to bring you to this screen. And now you're looking at your MyPay account. You'll have all these options to the left-hand side. There's a couple there I do want to mention is federal withholding. If you're single, you can actually claim yourself. So you may want to look on your exemption and to see, for most of you, it may be listed as 00. But you can actually claim yourself and they'll take less money out of your federal withholding and actually you'll get another $30 to $40 a month in your paycheck. The other area I wanted to point out is the thrift savings plan. So that's where we're going to go next. Once you click on that, this is the screen that you're going to see. Now, some of the writing is really small, so I edited this slide just so you could see it. So I've got two different areas. I've got traditional TSP and I've got Roth TSP. Now, some of you are going, okay, I know the difference of that, which is great, okay? And I'll just explain it to you. If you're in the Roth, that means you're paying the taxes of the year that you're putting money into the Roth. If you're in the traditional, then you're not paying taxes on that money, and those taxes will be deferred until you start drawing this money out. And that could be until, the earliest you want to take it out would be like 59 and a half. Okay, but that could be years down the road. Okay, there's several different lines there. There's base pay, special pay, incentive pay, bonus pay, and you can put a percentage of what you want to give. All of the matching is going to be off of the base pay line. So once you decide, hey, I want to get mine started at 5% or 10%, great. Put the number in there. And then right below it, it's going to say, okay, I need to make sure my date of birth is right. And some of this stuff may already be in the system because when you're in the military, there's a way that they already know some information about you, okay? And then you'll want to put your address in there, and then you don't have to put your city or state. All you have to do is put your zip code, and then once you put the zip code for Enid, then it will populate Enid, Oklahoma for you. But this is the address you want to put because this is where your account information is going to be mailed to you. Now, some people ask this, well, when can I get into my account? Well, that's the unfortunate thing. Sometimes it takes, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to get your account information. Once you get it, and they're going to send you a letter that's got your account number on it, and then they'll send you 2 perforated envelopes where they're going to send you a PIN for your account and also a temporary password. Once you get that information, contact me and I'll make sure that you've got my information, and then let me know that you've got it. And if we're still in this coronavirus thing and I'm still working from home, I've already walked a couple lieutenants right through the process, and we can do that no problem. Okay, so we'll take care of you.